The new manager is in place, and his relationship with head of recruitment Johan Lange is strong. And as well as that, Don Fabio Paratici has his iPhone headphones in, pulling the strings on potential deals and swaps for some of Europe's most exciting and untapped young talent. All reports coming out of Spurs at the moment are that fans should expect massive spending this window. And some of the names mentioned are exactly the kinds of players that we need. Those who can slot straight into the first team and push our young, talented 11 to great heights. I'll be discussing all the links as well as info on Matias Tel's permanent deal, as well as the rest of the transfer rumours on today's episode of Daily Premier League Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. Please do give this video a like if you're on YouTube and press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur and Premier League transfer news. Also, you'll see in the description box below, you can vote for me in the Spurs YouTube Content Creators Awards as put together by the brilliant guys at Spurs Kings TV. I've been nominated for 3 or 4 awards, so if you haven't given me a vote already and you do like my stuff, please do go to that link, and it's just about ticking the right boxes. And apologies in advance, guys. It's Monday morning about 10 o'clock. I've actually been really ill all weekend, so you can probably hear that in my voice, and if I get more and more sweaty as the episode goes along, you'll know why. Although some of you will be saying, well, why are you wearing that bobble hat then? The reason I'm wearing the bobble hat is because my hair is just so ridiculous at the moment. But let's get into it. And Tottenham have made their first signing of the summer over the weekend. Not unexpectedly, it is Matias Tel. The deal is worth around 35 million euros. And sometimes we give Daniel Levy enough abuse, don't we? We've got to give him some credit. He's managed to get that down 20 million euros from the previously agreed deal that was supposed to be the price that we bought him after the loan deal if Tel wanted to come to Spurs. So well done, Daniel Levy. The quote came out, the club said, "We're delighted to announce the permanent signing of Matias Tel from FC Bayern. Tel joined the club from the Bundesliga side in February on loan until the end of the season with an option to make the move permanent. We can confirm we've agreed a deal with Bayern that will see the French under-21 international sign a contract that will run until 2031. Once his current loan deal ends on the 30th of June. So that is a 6-year deal for Tel. He's only 19 years old. And a lot of people have said, oh, you know, we shouldn't have signed him. He didn't rip it up at Spurs. He didn't kind of pull up any trees in that first 6 months or so. I'd just say this, guys. He's 19 years old. He's shown enough to me with his touch, with his movement, with a turn of pace here and there. He scored 3 goals, which, of course, it's not brilliant. It's not as many as, say, Rashford scored on loan at Aston Villa. But Rashford is, 28 years old? Absolutely in his prime, or at least should be. And Tel has so much growing to do. And do not forget, guys, how difficult it can be for players from abroad who've never played in the Premier League to get used to the physicality, to the pace of that Premier Division. So I think that loan deal will prove in the long term for Spurs to be absolutely invaluable in Tel's development. And he is an exciting player. That is for sure. I personally think it's a really good deal for Spurs. 35 million euros. Shouldn't be forgotten. We did pay a loan fee, I think, of about 10 million euros for him. So that has been taken off that. So really, you're looking at 45 million euros all in. And if you look at how much it costs to buy a player these days, if you think about how, I think it's Brighton have just bought a young kid from Olympiacos, and I think they've spent like 38 million euros on him, an exciting young Greek talent who was on Spurs' list. But that's a club like Brighton having to pay that for a player who's never played in the Premier League, who's a teenager as well. And in reality, we've got a player here in Tel who has played at Bayern Munich at the absolute top level, shown enough there, already had one big move to Bayern behind him, and now he gets his move to Spurs, and he's clearly fallen in love with the club. He showed his desire when he was at the club already. He's shown how he's wanted to kind of bridge that gap between the fans and the manager and the players back when Ange Postecoglou was under some pressure. I'm thinking particularly of that Bournemouth game, a couple of times where he's jumped into the crowd to try and, just sort out that relationship. And he's shown age beyond his years as far as I'm concerned. Alistair Gold has since said, Thomas Frank's excited by the prospect of working with Matias Tel, whom he believes he can improve. Frank studied the player himself and felt the move was a good one. Yeah, and let's not forget this, guys. Thomas Frank, renowned within the game as somebody who improves players. And we actually haven't really had a manager like that, I would say. And no shade on Ange Postecoglou here. But we haven't had a manager who genuinely improves players visually. You can actually see it since Maurizio Pochettino and the way that he did that with the fullbacks, for instance, with Moussa Dembele, for example, Harry Kane, of course, and Dele Alli once he came in. So I'm excited to see what Frank can do with Matias Tel, and I do think it's a good signing. Let's move on to the other Tottenham transfer rumours of the weekend, and there have been absolutely loads. Starting with, according to the Daily Mail, Tottenham weighing up an approach for Everton defender Jared Branthwaite. I will say, there are some ITKs as well. I know people, obviously in general, very sceptical about ITKs, and that makes sense. Of course it does. But there are some ITKs around that I actually trust. And my plan is I'm going to be talking to one in particular who I've spoken to him a bit. I really trust him. He says he's got some sources within the club. I'm going to be talking to him on this channel in a week or so's time. There are some ITKs who are really reporting, as well as the Mail, that our interest in Jared Branthwaite is absolutely real, and potentially that it could be a deal that involves Richarlison going the other way. Spurs' interest, which apparently could be formalised as soon as this week, comes despite Everton telling suitors that he's not for sale. Chelsea apparently have also been pondering over a swoop for Branthwaite, and Spurs are expected to test the waters, even though David Moyes wants the England international to stay. I like Branthwaite, but unless it's a kind of Paratici deal where we can get money off it because of maybe Richarlison going the other way, I certainly wouldn't be looking to pay the kind of numbers that Everton were quoting Manchester United for him back in January and last summer, that's for sure. Obviously, Friday afternoon was very exciting for Spurs fans because it came out on Sky Sports News and a lot of other reputable broadcasters and online sites that Tottenham had launched a £70 million bid to hijack Man United's move for Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford. The offer apparently is worth £65 million plus £5 million in add-ons, which is £10 million more than Manchester United's. What I found hilarious about it is how Manchester United fans, who kind of similarly to how they were so confident that they were going to beat Spurs in the Europa League final, they've all been saying, especially Mark Goldbridge, how Mbeumo will definitely be going to Manchester United, and why would he ever choose Spurs over Manchester United? Well, the other reports say, as many others have reported, I can confirm that Tottenham have made an official offer for Bryan Mbeumo. According to Sky Sports, Spurs held initial discussions with Brentford about a deal for him during their talks and deal-making for Thomas Frank coming over as manager. Spurs apparently, though, if they don't go for Mbeumo, their next choice will be Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth, another player I really like. And Ben Jacobs was on The Last Word on Spurs with Ricky Sachs. If you don't watch The Last Word on Spurs, listen to their podcast, make sure you do. Really good podcast. They work so hard, those guys. Ben Jacobs said, I'd go so far as to say if Mbeumo doesn't come off for Spurs, Semenyo is the next choice. Mbeumo, according to Sky Sports, did say they said that he's understood to be more intrigued by a move to Tottenham now that Thomas Frank has become the head coach. Spurs have apparently received encouragement about a potential deal now that the Dane has made the switch to North London. So listen, I personally still feel that it's most likely that Mbeumo will go to Manchester United. But one thing you've got to say is that since Jim Ratcliffe has taken over the football side of things at Old Trafford, he has been incredibly forthright and single-minded and stubborn about not being willing to pay the kind of money that United have previously paid for players, both in terms of transfer fees and wages. And it may well be that this interest from Tottenham might push Manchester United to a number they are unwilling to go. And when it comes to Jim Ratcliffe, you've got to bear in mind, he sacked most of their staff who are just on living wage because he wants to save money. So he is going to be stubborn about this kind of thing. And maybe it'll be that, it might well be that Mbeumo wants to go to Manchester United more than Spurs, but it might well be also that Manchester United are unwilling to pay what Spurs are willing to pay. And if that's the case, then maybe down the line, Mbeumo will have a choice of staying at Brentford or coming to Spurs. So let's see what happens. The Athletic have said in the last few days that Thomas Frank will be backed in the transfer market with a particular focus on the front line, and that is why he is looking to persuade Mbeumo to follow him to Tottenham. Sammy Merkbell for the BBC said that Tottenham are also interested in Eberechi Eze, who has a £68 million release clause from Crystal Palace, but that, I think it's fair to say, will be a difficult deal. As I've said in all of my videos so far this summer, I think there will be other clubs looking to take Eze, and £68 million is a lot of money. Brentford, who have been willing to listen to Spurs' interest in Mbeumo, are apparently less interested in Tottenham taking Christian Norgard from Brentford. Thomas Frank is interested in looking at him as a potential buy for the midfield. Meanwhile, a previous link that we had all of last summer and January to Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa has come back. Ramsey was keen on coming to Spurs last summer apparently, but Villa were reluctant to let him leave. Aston Villa, of course, have problems with PSR. They didn't make it into the Champions League. They have the highest wage to revenue budget, up in the 93-94% numbers. And they will need to lose players this summer. That's why Emi Martinez is being linked with a move away. And if they can get pure money in for a player like Jacob Ramsey, and if Tottenham are willing to maybe go to somewhere like £50 million for him, then I think Villa might be willing to let him go. I like Jacob Ramsey. He played a lot more this season than I thought he would. I'd kind of read a lot about Jacob Ramsey, mostly playing off the bench for Villa. But he played a lot of games, played in the Champions League. He impressed me. And Spurs, once again, sniffing around, as they should be, those kind of box-fresh, oven-ready players who can come in and play in the first team and push our young, exciting talent, as I said in the opening of this video, on to bigger and better things. Mail Sport say that Spurs are among the clubs keeping tabs on Alejandro Garnacho from Manchester United as well. That doesn't surprise me. Also, reports from Italy, and this is where Don Fabio Paratici no doubt comes in. Spurs have apparently agreed a deal in principle to sign AS Roma midfielder Nicola Pasili. The deal will be pursued after the Under-21 European Championship, which is happening now. Pasili is playing for Italy. Of course, Matias Tel and Wilson Odobert playing for France in that. And Tel actually got man of the match in their game yesterday and scored a penalty. Spurs have also inquired about the possibility of signing Vanderson, who is valued at €30 million. And perhaps one of the most exciting links, once again, Spurs really like Xavi Simons, but the price would have to be right to get him from RB Leipzig. Spurs willing to go to somewhere like £60 million for him, and this apparently, according to reputable reports, could be one to watch in future. Meanwhile, quite a surprising link for a player who's very much on Tottenham's list. Tottenham have been linked with Southampton's exciting young winger Tyler Dibbling for a long time. He's still only 19 years old, but Porto in Portugal want to sign him and are willing to spend between 20 and 25 million pounds on him. So it'll be interesting whether Spurs will be willing to get in a bidding war for Tyler Dibbling. Another link, and another Italian link from an Italian club, which makes me think that Paratici, even though he won't be announced till July as our sporting director, but he's already clearly working for Spurs still, maybe officially only as a consultant. But Spurs pressing hard to sign Jan Bissek from Inter Milan. Apparently their chief executive was in London last week for talks to sell the centre-half. Some reports of outgoings now. Ibasuma is generating significant interest from a number of clubs in Saudi Arabia, with Tottenham keen to move him on. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the potential of Ibasuma. And actually, if you don't have the time to get in the comments now, this is a good time to say I'm going to be trying as much as I can, starting this week, to do 2 shows a day now. I'm going to be doing this morning show where I take you through all the Premier League Tottenham transfer talk and Tottenham news and Premier League transfer talk. And then at about 5:30 every evening, I will be doing a live stream where I will be debating with you guys. So you guys jump into the comments with me on the live stream every afternoon when I can at 5:30 p.m. and we'll talk about all the Tottenham news, the transfer talk, and really giving you guys a voice. So do look out for that one. Anyway, back on the Bissouma thing. I'd be sad to lose Bissouma after his redemption arc. He did so well in those Europa League knockout games after we got the injuries to Maddison, Kulusevski and Bergvall. A number of other players also have been discussed during talks, including the potential of Sonny and Richarlison going to Saudi Arabia. Spurs have apparently asked for steep fees during initial talks. Well, if you're in negotiations with Saudi Arabia, you are absolutely dead right to be asking for steep fees because they've got the money. And especially, I've seen some of the reports of the kind of money that Sonny, Spurs are looking for Sonny to leave. If Sonny were to go to Saudi Arabia, then 30 million euros for me is not enough. He would be kind of the face of their league, pretty much, other than, I guess, Ronaldo. So it would have to be more. But if Sonny gets a move maybe to somewhere else in Europe, maybe a kind of Lewandowski-esque move to a Barcelona or another big club, then for sure, for me, 30 million euros would be absolutely fine. But if it's over to Saudi, it needs to be more. Sammy Mertbell in the BBC also said that no suitors have currently indicated they would be willing to match Tottenham's £70 million asking price for Christian Romero. For me, I've said it before, I'll say it again, £70 million for Christian Romero is the absolute lowest that we should go. He is a World Cup winner. He is a double Copa America champion. He's a Europa League champion. He has won every final he's been in. He is a leader. And that, I think, is the right starting bid for Tottenham to have put on. And if no one's willing to pay that, if Atletico or Real Madrid aren't willing to pay that, then he stays at Spurs And like I've said before, and I got some pelters in the comments for it, but if I'm Thomas Frank, I have a word with Romero and I say, are you interested in being the captain of this club going forward? Are you interested in grabbing this club by the scruff of the neck in every single league game and showing your winning mentality and trying to drag us to amazing things? Talking about the Sonny links to Saudi Arabia, the other club being linked with him big time this weekend is Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. They've offered the Spurs captain an annual salary of 12 million euros apparently, and Jose and Sonny have had a conversation over the past few days about the potential of him going to Turkey. For me, I think Sonny can do better than that. I really do think Sonny could get a move to a big club in Europe if he really wanted it. Similar to what happened to Lewandowski. And I think that if Sonny does want to leave, if he feels like he's done everything at Spurs now, and a club gives us the money we need, then I will let him go with my blessings. But listen, I've said for years now, I would also love it if we signed Sonny up to a 10-year deal worth millions of pounds, and he can become an ambassador afterwards, he can become a coach, he can do whatever he wants at Tottenham Hotspur. I'd love to keep him forever. But if he wants a new challenge, then absolutely he has deserved it. What an absolute club legend he is. Okay, Alistair Gold has given some updates on Manor Solomon. He wants to try and impress Thomas Frank in pre-season, although Spurs are apparently still expected to look at the market for the player after his value rose following his excellent loan spell at Leeds. I imagine he will end up going to Leeds on a permanent deal this summer. But I understand why he wants to impress Frank, and let's see what he can do. Some reports on how Daniel Levy felt about Thomas Frank and why he chose to appoint him. Apparently, he's been a fan of him for some time. Daniel Levy himself drove the pursuit that led Thomas Frank to become the new Spurs head coach. Talks were held before the season even ended on how much compensation it would take to appoint him, apparently. Club sources claim the figure is closer to £5 million than the widely reported £10 million. That is according to The Athletic. Should say now, by the way, if you can hear in the background some noise, that's because some hoovering is being done in the flat. Ever professional on this stream, guys, on this page. Johan Langer and Thomas Frank, as I mentioned in my opening, are said to hold a similar view as to the profile of player required to take Tottenham Hotspur forward. Well-placed sources say there is a synergy between the pair. They've worked together before in Denmark, and I think it's really important that we have our head of recruitment and our manager on the same page, and that came from a good article that Sammy Merkbell did in the BBC. Tottenham have rejected Rosario Central's loan offer for Alejo Valise. The deal is currently on standby because Spurs prefer to sell the player outright. Meanwhile, Tottenham talent Luka Vuskovic is expected to be handed the chance to impress in pre-season under Thomas Frank, of course. Vuskovic comes in this summer, having been on loan at Westerlo, and all reports are that Spurs believe we have a major talent on our hands, having beaten PSG and Man City to his signature. But we will, according to Ryan Taylor, we intend to manage his development carefully in a bid to ensure he fulfills his potential in North London. That's exactly the right way to look at it. Don't necessarily throw him straight in just because he's a talent. Let's see what happens. Again, players have to get used to the cut and thrust of the Premier League. It does not come easy for foreign players. Okay, some reports that Spurs have started legal proceedings against Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos. Ineos, of course, were sponsoring Spurs. They had a deal to do with their 4x4 car, and they were the names on the back of the seats in on the bench at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The 5-year deal with Spurs started in 2022 before Jim Ratcliffe bought a stake in Man United, but since they exited the sponsorship deal abruptly 3 years into a 5-year deal. This is according to Sky Sports, and Tottenham are suing them. So yeah, let's get some money, extra money out of Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He hates giving money away, so that'll be good. All right, guys, before I go on to the wider Premier League transfer news, once again, thank you so much for watching. Do give this video a like if you haven't already. If you're not already a subscriber to my channel, please do press that subscribe button in the bottom right. I bring you daily Tottenham Hotspur transfer news and wider ranging Premier League transfer news, but I'll always start with Tottenham Hotspur. And as I said earlier, where I can every evening at 5:30 p.m, I will also be doing live streams on this channel where I'll talk to you guys. You give me your questions, send your questions in, and we'll debate all the news, all the Tottenham transfer talk, and discuss in real time how we think things are going at Tottenham Hotspur in what is an exciting summer for the club. I think it's a good situation for Thomas Frank to be in. In the league, he cannot do any worse, in my opinion, and therefore I think it'll be onwards and upwards. All right, guys, I'll just quickly go through some of the other transfer reports from around the Premier League. Man United have apparently made contact with Eintracht Frankfurt to register their interest in Hugo Ekitike. He's an incredibly exciting forward, isn't he? Played well against Spurs, scored that great goal in the Europa League. United will turn their attentions to signing Antoine Semenyo of Bournemouth or Crystal Palace's Eberechi Eze if Tottenham beat them to Bryan Mbeumo of Brentford. Man United striker Rasmus Højlund has emerged as a top target for Inter Milan. Over to Liverpool, they're considering a move for Napoli and Nigeria striker Victor Osimhen, who of course was on loan at Galatasaray last year and also scored against Spurs in the Europa League. Bayer Leverkusen under Erik ten Hag are interested in taking Jarell Quansah of Liverpool. Apparently they rate him at about £40 million. Liverpool are joining Spurs in interest for PSG forward Bradley Barcola. And they'll still be interested in him even after their Premier League transfer record deal for Bayer Leverkusen's Florian Wirtz, which is somewhere up towards £120 million. Absolute madness. I mentioned Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce being interested in Sonny earlier. They're also apparently interested in taking Kyle Walker from Manchester City after his unsuccessful loan at AC Milan. Manchester United are interested in Victor Gyökeres, but apparently Arsenal had made an opening bid for him, but they have now apparently dropped out of the race for Gyökeres and are concentrating on signing Benjamin Sesko or Ollie Watkins. Arsenal fans are having absolute kittens at the moment with the fact that they haven't spent any money as yet. Atletico Madrid also interested in Gyökeres, who is 27, so you can kind of see why kind of paying upwards of 60-70 million pounds is something that you might not want to do. Staying over at South Woolwich Arsenal, they're apparently also interested in Nico Williams, but he has been given permission to move to talk to Bayern Munich after they met his release clause. And also, Arsenal have joined Spurs in being interested in Dutch centre-back Jorel Hato from Ajax. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Apologies for it's probably not been as succinct today because I'm not very well, but thank you so much for watching. Do give this video a like, do press subscribe. Also, do subscribe or follow me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and listen whilst you're out walking or driving or whatever you do. Just go over there and type in the Spurred On podcast. Really appreciate if you give me a follow or subscribe there. And hopefully, as long as I don't drop dead today, I will be back at about 5:30 for the first of my weekly debates, guys, where we'll go through all the latest Tottenham Hotspur news and Premier League transfer news, and I'll take all of your questions in the chat, and we'll just give you guys a voice and talk about it every evening, 5:30 p.m. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Cheers.